All right, this week we're here with a very special guest, Denise Morris, head of our closing department, also our broker at Matt Curtis Real Estate, also our first ever team member on the team. So we're really excited to have her share some of her closing experience with our audience. But before we jump into that, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and also like the video to stay on top of all of the latest Huntsville, Alabama real estate news. All right, so first question I have for you, how long have you been on the Matt Curtis Real Estate team?
I have been with our team for almost 13 years.
Awesome. And you were also a client as well.
I was, yeah. So when we decided to relocate here for my husband's job 13 years ago, we contacted you and you helped us find our home.
Awesome. All right, so you've been on the team for about 13 years. How many homes have you closed during that 13-year period?
Just over 1,200 and growing.
So that's really amazing. So I just want to kind of stop and pause on that for a minute. So the average agent in our market, really actually half of the agents in our market sell between 0 to 2 homes a year. The average agent only sells like 4 or 5 homes a year. So if you've sold 1,200 homes and the average agent sells about 5, that's 240 years worth of experience. And I think that's really one of the advantages of working with our team is you get experts like Denise serving you during the process because it's kind of like insurance policy. You've seen basically everything you could ever see go wrong in a transaction, and so you're there to advise clients during those steps. And so that hopefully nothing goes wrong, but if they do, they have you as an expert to help them out. And Denise has closed more homes than anyone in the state of Alabama, so I think that's really impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it is real important, especially for our team, and that's another thing that I really enjoy about our team is because we have so many people that are expert in their field. They're all a specialist in their role. So we have each other to bounce things off of, pull knowledge from. And so one, you're never alone. And then two, I do have a lot of experience over the years in all the transactions. And I tell people this, you do, 30 a year, but I'm doing a lot more than that. So obviously I'm going to see a lot more circumstances and have a lot more experience in that than you would.
Oh, absolutely. Even when I sold homes, you knew a whole lot more than I did. I always deferred to you as well because of your wealth of experience. And I think it kind of always goes back to what I consider like the restaurant analogy. Real estate agents, they're juggling all these different balls, and oftentimes balls get dropped or they're doing tasks that they're not necessarily as good and skilled at. Like you're very skilled at one thing, agents are skilled at another thing, and we have all these different roles in our team. It's kind of like if you went to a restaurant this weekend and the same person greeted you and cooked your food and took your order and bussed the table and all those different things, you'd probably never go back to the restaurant because the process just wasn't very efficient. And I think that's what you get with Denise and the rest of the team members on our team.
Yes. And so again, that's another thing that I was talking about with our agents and all the experience they have, the other experience from the other closing members. We have so much to pull from that we're able to keep everything on track, and being an expert in your role helps to keep that process run smoothly.
Absolutely. So with all that, what is your favorite thing about being on the Matt Curtis Real Estate team, the #1 team in Alabama?
As stated, I love that everybody on our team is a specialist in their own role. So you have so much to be able to pull from. If a situation comes up that you don't know, you can easily make that phone call, get the answers that you need, the answers that your clients need. And then I also love that the fact that we have such a hardworking team that we are able to give back to our community and build homes around the world.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about what we do. I think that's why we have one of the best jobs in the world, because we're able to serve our clients and getting their dream home. We have a job that we can provide for our families, but even more importantly too, we're able to make an impact here locally and around the world. So with like the Kids to Love foster placing charity that we support, the Curtis Cares facility that we've been able to help them build, charities like House of Harvest here locally, and then really around the world as well. Our vision is to build 1,000 homes for families in both Nicaragua and Guatemala. And so not only do our clients help get their dream home, but they're also helping provide a dream home for another family that's in need as well.
Yes.
So you lead up our closing department. What does the closing department do for our clients from contract to closing?
Yes, so we do. Once your contract comes in, we take care of it from then all the way through closing. So we're going to schedule any inspections that you may want. We're going to schedule your closing day and time. And then along the way, if there's any addendums that needed to be done to make a change to the contract, negotiating your repairs, anything that happens really from the point of contract through closing, your closing team is going to take care of.
There's really a lot that goes on there, and a lot of clients don't realize that. They think, okay, I'm under contract, or the hardest part's behind us. Really, in reality, sometimes it's smooth sailing, but sometimes that's actually the hardest part. And so I know that's why our clients are so appreciative of the client or the closing team, and really just the wealth of experience that y'all have with that role.
Yes, so your contract is such a happy time, and then getting into the nitty gritty is sometimes a little bit harder. So having your closing team to be able to assist you and get you through that process smoothly is really helpful.
All right, so with all that, what advice do you have for both our buyers and sellers in terms of like common mistakes? So things that they don't want to, mistakes they don't want to make in buying and selling.
So it's kind of a separate process. You have the process side for your buyer and the process side for your seller. So for buyers, we tell you, and their lenders will tell you, don't make any additional purchases. Buyers are excited. They want to make purchases for their new furniture or for new appliances for their homes.
But as long as they do like a buy now, pay later, they're okay. No,
it is going to affect their credit the same way. Whether they are making payments on that debt today or whether they're planning to make payments on that debt in 6 months, it is going to affect your credit the same way. Also for buyers, you're very busy. You're excited. You've got all this getting ready for the move into your new home. You're working. You have family obligations. But your lenders are going to need a lot of attention. There's documents that they require that need to be given priority. And there's documents from those documents that are going to be required that are going to need that same priority. Also, along the process, we have things in the contract that have a strict timeline. When we're negotiating repairs and things like that. So just making sure that you find time or make time to be available for your lender and your closing team.
So what you're trying to say is don't send you and the lender to voicemail when you call.
Preferably
You're
not.
probably calling for a reason.
Have a plan to call back if that should happen. And then for the seller side, the biggest thing for them is a lot of sellers have utilities turned off too early. So then what happens, we get to the final walkthrough and the buyers don't have any power. So we're having to run around trying to get emergency connect. Not only is it frustrating, take more time out of your day as a seller, but it's also going to cost you to pay those additional emergency reconnect fees and things like that.
Right.
Also in the contract, it spells out items that automatically convey with the home that a lot of people don't realize. Simple things like your curtains, rods, all the hardware, TV mounts, things of that nature. And there's a list actually in the contract that spell out those items specifically that they really need to pay attention to. People think when they move, oh, I'm taking my TV, so I'll take my TV mount. No, you can't, that conveys. Or my custom drapes in the dining room, I want to take those with me. You can't, they convey. So it's very important when you have those specific things that are personal to you, that you specify in the very beginning, before contract, those are items that you're going to be taking with you.
So how does a buyer know how much money to bring to closing? And then like what form of payment? Can be a personal check? Can it be cryptocurrency? Can they bring some gold? Like what do they need to bring to closing?
So it really depends on who they're going to be closing with, who the closing attorney is. There are some attorneys in town that will allow them to bring a cashier's check from a local bank. But there are some attorneys in town that require, regardless of where it's coming from, that it be sent by a wire transfer. So that, again, that's something that your closing team will find out for you and get those arrangements to you so you know what to expect. If it's wiring instructions, or even if they say, I'll accept a cashier's check, but you prefer to wire. Your bank's not local, it's not convenient to run down and get a cashier's check. We can have the closing attorney email those wiring instructions to you so that you have them when the time comes.
And to clarify that too, like we will never ask that you wire funds directly to us.
No.
Sometimes that's a scam out there. People try to spoof emails.
Right.
You always have to wire directly to the closing attorney. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we even have a little note on our emails that remind people we're never going to send you wiring instructions, okay? Even if you request them from me, they're never going to come from me. They're going to come directly from the closing attorney. We have seen in the past where people receive closing instructions that they think come from the closing attorney. Read the closing instructions, read the wiring instructions. If it is having you sent to Matt Curtis in South Florida, then you're going to know, hey, I'm closing with Wolf Jones in Huntsville, not Matt Curtis in South Alabama. But your closing team is going to go over all that with you when we have the final numbers for closing, whether you're buying or selling. If you're buying, your lender is going to give you an idea of what you're going to need to bring, but until they are actually balanced with a closing attorney and have all the fees, it may not be your exact final number. So when we have that, usually a day or two before closing, then we reach out to the client, go over your settlement statement for closing, make sure there's no surprises so you know exactly what you're bringing and how that needs to be brought. Back to your question about cash. No, they do not accept cash, nor do they accept credit cards, nor do they accept debit cards. It has to be in the form of a cashier's check, not a personal check, or a wire transfer.
All right, so last question, are there any documents that have to be provided at closing?
Occasionally you do have documents that have to be provided, but most commonly you just have to bring your driver's license. Okay. In the rare occasion that the lender or the closing attorney will require 2 forms of identification, they will let you know that before closing. And those secondary forms could be a military ID, passport, social security card, things of that nature. But that is a conversation that the closing attorney or your closing team will have for you, so you know when you come that you've got the right thing.
We did just get a second Costco in town. I know a lot of people are proud of having those Costco cards. Is that something they can bring as well?
Believe it or not, yes.
Okay, secondary ID, right? Not primary?
Secondary ID.
Okay.
Yes, your primary ID has to be a state issued ID and it has to be valid. So if your license is expired, it's no good. It has to be a valid driver's license. But yeah, a lot of times your secondary form, because it has your picture, they will accept it.
Nice. Well, just another reason to go out and get a Costco card. Another reason to use Matt Curtis Real Estate as well. You get expert advice from folks like Denise Morris on our team. And even if she doesn't personally work with you, she is behind the scenes working really hard as the closing manager. This year, our closing team will average 100, 200 closings apiece. So it's like closing insurance. And so it's a great service that we provide at Matt Curtis Real Estate. And so if you're thinking about buying or selling a home, we would love to work with you. You can give us a call at 256-333-MOVE, and we will help you with both the buy and the sell side, and the closing side as well. Right?
And the closing side. Start to finish. We will help you find the home and get into the home.